Welcome.
Thank you.
I will bring it up. The election we talked about.
Do you want to move these together?
Yeah.
I was like over there. Trying to get this board. Trying not to run over you. Here we go. Got it? Okay. Run over you.
I mean,
All right.
I don't know, yeah, it's water, so. How do you,
So, before we start in ours, I do have a task for Public Works that we discussed, and that's the addressing.
Okay.
An ordinance was passed back in, 2016, look at my notes, ordinance number 926. And it was passed, but Public Works never, took on the project and finished it. And it's readdressing our side streets so that,
We start with one in the middle and then.
yeah, exactly. But in order for them to move forward with that, the mayor would like us to pass a resolution, council to say, yes, there's still that will to do that, and he will work with Mike to make it happen. Because all the planning is there from Tom Coley and stuff, that it would just be a matter of.
Okay, we can't talk about it today, but we can talk about it next week.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, well, it's been, almost 8 years since it passed, and nothing's happened.
It was Lori's thing.
Yeah.
It was her thing, she wanted it,
Yeah, and,
it just kept getting,
Lori?
yeah,
it just kept getting pushed back.
yeah, but,
And it has to be worked with the fire department as well. or
yeah,
with the-
and that's what Tom and the chief are both chief, fire department and.
Do you know why it didn't, like, what was the obstacle? Why didn't it happen? Time
there
or?
just wasn't anybody that wanted to, they just dropped it and it was.
They were waiting on Tom Coley to get his side of stuff done, and it just never happened.
Yeah, 'cause that's when he was working on GIS and all that kind of thing too.
There was a lot
Yeah.
going on.
Yep.
So it just kept getting pushed, but I think there is a timeline, if I remember right, that was talked about.
I'll check on that.
Yeah. So that, if your public works committee could take that on.
When I say I mean we will.
Yeah, and just,
We-
and you can reach out to the chief and, both chiefs on the importance of doing it,
Yeah.
mainly with
I remember
new
hearing
hires,
about that.
our streets are just, apparently we are
When you use Google.
the minority.
What people do is they get it wrong. Like the French guys that were going over the pass from Cook City because Google told them that was a good route.
Right.
It was in the middle of winter. They went around the barrier
Well, that's,
because people use Google.
that's not Caribbean. Sorry.
Okay, so, yes, we will, I can find my stuff here. Read on that message, okay. Did everyone get a chance to look at the January 23rd meeting minutes?
Yes.
So did I.
Good job, Chelsea.
Can I, all those in favor of approving them?
Aye.
Okay. All right, tonight we have up for discussion the authorization to submit a CDBG planning grant for the Red Lodge, Community Foundation and it's actually for, prepare a housing study for eligible property within the urban renewal district for the city of Red Lodge as an appendix to the Red Lodge growth policy is what it's for. Sandy and I did meet with, Angela about this, and basically they're just looking for the city of Red Lodge to be the pass-through for this.
Dave, can you hear us okay now?
Can't hear him?
I can't hear him either. I connected. It was working on the last. Speaker volume, it's on, speaker's on. Says
Is
I was
he-
connected.
Did he mute himself?
Okay, we can't hear you, Dave, whatsoever.
He thinks the phone is not on speaker.
It is on
Okay.
speaker.
Oh,
Phone is
and
on- Phone is on speaker.
did you share the camera again too? Yeah,
did.
okay.
Still can't hear you. You're
Can-
talking, we can't hear you.
Can you use the other one, or does that not work?
No, that's why I went and got this one, 'cause this one did its thing again.
Oh, or you have to reset it?
Yeah, but it has to stay off for so long.
And
we're not
Okay.
having,
is he the only one on? Maybe call it again.
Does Brian have a big printer?
And use a Target printer.
You'd what?
He uses ours. But he'll drop
Oh,
and
you could
rejoin.
have like a 24-36.
All right.
I'll let him go out and then come back. Okay, so on the admin part of the, those pass-through payments, we don't administer anything to do with that grant. It is literally a pass-through. We get the money in of our bank account, we get a notification, then I get a check. I make a claim, you guys sign it, you guys, I don't.
So there's very
feel-
little time.
I don't feel like the city should be trying to take
Okay.
Yeah.
an admin fee when I don't feel it's taking much time at all
Okay.
to justify it.
Okay.
And I think it's a good, feel-good thing for the city to help and work with the community foundation, not take a.
Yeah, and I know that,
suggesting that we should have wanted to ask
No, I know.
because it was
Yeah.
brought up at our last city council meeting,
Yep.
I know the community foundation always takes a fee regardless of how much work
Mhm.
they do.
It's true.
They.
I know, but I
Because I would use
I just
them.
feel like for, on the city side of it, I don't
Okay.
feel we should, but that is.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Zoom in on the other Zoom.
It's much quieter than it was at the last meeting, but I don't know if that's just Tom is louder than, but even Jody, you were in the last meeting and you sounded much louder then than now.
I moved we had to use Courtney's phone because that other phone is not working again.
Did you hear that?
Now we lost you again.
Oh, boy.
What? No. Dave, we can't hear you.
Weird.
So even on the accounting end, just to kind of keep that rolling, like when you're going through and actually doing line items and checking those bank statements, it doesn't add additional hours, time, anything?
No, because we get a notice from the state. I get an email saying, hey, this money's been deposited.
Okay.
And, Danae will record it, and then I write a check.
Okay.
And then Saint Rec takes me. Hello?
Okay.
To match it up to that line item.
Gotcha.
It doesn't take very long at all.
Okay.
Is Dave calling
Okay.
in now? I can almost hear him.
Right? You can hear him on her phone.
Yeah, that speaker, the one in the chamber is not working.
Just get a city cell phone.
Can you just wanna listen on a phone? But I'll try to hook up that other phone after this meeting and try it that way, so,
You can just go on speaker.
Should we do old school, just call him? Yeah, come on
He
speaker.
said just to keep going.
Okay. Okay, so,
I'm not sure why it worked last meeting and now it's not working this time.
so it's just up for discussion tonight. I am sure that someone will bring up about the, fee.
Can you just, you wanna just, listen on the phone? I'll just set this down.
You're on speaker, so we can hear you.
Okay, I'll just hit mute so it doesn't circle around.
Okay.
Okay. So any other discussion on this? We will have to bring it up tonight for
Yep.
discussion.
And we've done this numerous times, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Sure enough.
Okay. All right. So, Chelsea, do you want to introduce us tonight's meeting?
Sure.
Okay. Since you are familiar
Yeah,
with how those work and what they are, and
absolutely.
okay. Our local government review resolution is up for action tonight. One thing we need to really discuss today is the budget. We did, in our resolution right now, we do have it set at 25,000. How much is a mill worth right now? Is it 11?
It's almost 11, a little under.
A little under 11. It used to be that you would allow, the state to let you do 2 mills, was the limit, but now they've changed that, so there isn't a limit. So that would have put it right at 22,000, and we just rounded it up to 25,000. But we do have to have a budget for this moving forward, including, the big things on this budget are election expenses, for the June election and for the November election. So June, if it gets, they'll vote on whether or not they want us to form the committee or the commission. November, they elect the commissioners, and then the following November would be where we vote on whether or not we want a city manager. So technically, there could be up to 3 elections that we might have to pay for. And we need to find out how much they would charge us for that, because my understanding is if there's another election going on, they don't necessarily charge us, is that right?
It still charges, just not as much.
Okay.
I stopped in to talk to Crystal, but she was out at a training, so I'd be happy to follow up on that again.
Okay.
Once I listened to the, presentation, I
Yeah,
kind of dropped doing all of the
this is
hard
really,
costs, because I think we do want to have a little bit extra, so we don't have to go into general fund.
So I had a question too, so if, on this resolution, if we only put a dollar amount in there, then that is, because it was my understanding, if you do mills, then you don't have to touch your general fund. But if you don't do the mills, then you have to budget that 25,000 out of your general fund, and I'm not sure where you're gonna come up with 25,000.
see,
And I
and,
could be wrong,
No,
but.
I didn't get that.
yeah, no, I
just
think,
watched it again last night, I didn't get that
yeah,
at all.
I think that was, we can double check with Dan, but,
Yeah,
Dave, did you talk to Dan?
I think we absolutely need to double check that, because we need to make sure that it's, that we get the additional amount to do it. And that was kind of my initial understanding. I know other people have said that they felt different, but, here's my, and it makes sense when it passes the smell test, because if it's a dollar amount and it's over and above what they're paying, how do they figure out how to allocate that? Do they say, that's 0.72 mils? So the fact that it's a mill number kind of makes sense as an add-on.
Because I just don't know where the money's gonna come if you don't have extra mills, because there's no way the city can do more mills within their regular
Right.
levy. So,
I specifically asked that at that meeting, and Dan didn't really answer it.
so I would
But
get
they said if we
clarification.
go over budget, then that amount comes out of
The
the
general
general
fund.
fund. So, and he said, the majority of municipalities do it as a dollar amount.
Yeah.
So people
They
understand.
understand what the amount is, because nobody knows what a mill is.
But I'm curious where that money comes from then. If you don't do a mill, where's that money coming from? Because
On your
it's just,
tax statement, I would have.
It comes from the voters, it's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
understood.
but the only way it goes to the voters is if you put it down as, because we had to do that for the emergency thing. We had to do an extra 2 mills on top of what we already can legally levy for our general fund. So we can't just tack on more mills or dollar amounts if we don't know where the money is
It says
coming
right
from.
here, the resolution can ask for an increase in mills or number of dollars to fund the local government review.
Okay, and I understand
Because
that, but
if
where is
it's
the
just-
money?
it would come from the voters, because we're asking them for it.
Yeah.
If we are just funding it
Let's-
ourselves, you don't have to put anything down, because we just budget it.
No, for the resolution, because you have to tell voters what the budget is gonna be for that resolution.
Right, but this is saying that you can ask for an increase in mills or the number of dollars to fund the local government review.
But I don't know
So-
how
There
that
needs to be a
Guys,
line item
rather-
on your tax statement.
Rather than us discussing it when we don't know, let's either somebody there or Lonnie or I can reach out to Dan or
Okay.
Angela, let's get a firm answer on the specific question from them tonight. And Jody, whoever you wanna assign that to is fine.
Okay, Dave, do you feel like reaching out to him? Or Lonnie? Either?
I'm happy to do that if you want to assign that to me.
Are you sure? Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm actually feeling pretty good. It's just nights that are miserable, and I feel a lot better today than the last couple of days, so.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that we're.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Because it just says for the review of government and establishing the funding not to exceed, and it says insert dollar or mill amount of a local government study. So we're asking them for that, but yeah, I guess, like you say, rather than us,
Going around
Run-
on it.
yeah,
Solid
please.
answer.
yeah.
Yep.
Please, Dave, let us know ASAP, so we have the answer
I
for
will
tonight.
get that follow-up with you, Jody.
Okay, sounds good. And then, the election expenses, and then, of course, the training, is going to be huge. I think we have 5 members right now, is what we have for the number of commissioners. You know, there's a possibility that, you know, I mean, if we have 3, it has to be an odd number. 3
Yep.
would cut down on those training expenses, because they have to travel, they have to stay at a hotel. You know how expensive hotels are. I mean, that would definitely save on that. It sounds like a lot of communities, after attending this class, do go with 3 instead of 5.
I said only 12 municipalities did
Yeah,
5,
5.
Yeah.
and nobody did more than that.
So,
Because you can also elect somebody to come, like, from council, city staff, et cetera, to also be a part of this committee.
right, in fact, they recommend that you have someone from city staff be part of it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, if that's the
Or
case, now we have that additional feedback and education and resource, while also saving in terms of training and, election costs, all that, so, that,
So we can, I guess, you know, tonight, we need to decide if we're just gonna leave it at 5, or if we're gonna amend our, resolution to change that to 3. It won't affect, you know, the legality of the document or anything like that. It's just, what do you guys think? Dave, do you have an opinion on that too?
It's council's decision, but I tend to lean toward 3 just because of the size of our community and anticipated results, but
Well, and,
I think, didn't they say 3 was the most common? I heard somebody
Yeah,
say that
yeah.
earlier.
and I think I was leaning towards 5, because we thought we could have some people from outside the city limits on it, but we
Yeah.
found out we can't. So the people that were interested, such as Tom Kuntz, can't be on the committee. So I was thinking it would be nice to have an at-large person who
Yeah.
is a property owner in the city limits, to have some representation, but apparently that's not possible. So I think we would be hard-pressed, honestly, to find 5 people in the city limits that would want to serve
yep.
as well,
What
so.
happens if we can't find 5 people?
I believe it was.
We can appoint.
We can appoint.
Mhm.
I just think that it would be better to have 5, or you have 3 people agreeing, as just 2 people overriding 1 person. It seems that 3 to me isn't much of a commission.
That's a good point. Yeah, if we would have to appoint people if we don't get 5, you know. And I don't even know if you'd have to have an election if only 3 people signed up to, that would be another question, I guess. It might save having to have an election if only 3 people sign up and we have 5 seats, so, or if we
Yeah.
only have 3 too, so. So I guess we'll discuss that tonight and see how council feels about it, if we want to change it or not. But those are all valid conversations to have tonight, for sure. And
Was that third election, was that November 2025?
let me look at the timeline here real quick. Possible election in 2026.
November or just 2026? Because it doesn't need to be,
I think it's November, but.
Yeah.
okay, I'll just say 2026.
Yeah, and then they also have to publish a final report too,
Mhm.
so.
But that doesn't have anything to do with the elections.
Right, the fixed costs are the election in November 2024, possible election in 2026, and publication of the final report. Variable costs are training costs for commissions to learn their roles and responsibilities, community outreach, fees and expenses for consultants, support staff, which would be, the city, probably Lonnie,
Mhm.
advertising and notices, so. So I guess if we can, yeah. So if we stick with 5, I mean, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, I
the
think,
costs will definitely go up, but it
Yeah.
might be well worth it too, I don't know.
and again, I can definitely see the argument for either or. It seems like 3 has worked in the past. I personally think that 3 makes sense, just again, talking about our pool that we're pulling from, and again, keeping those costs down. And we would also have, again, I think with being able to get input from other individuals, it's not like we wouldn't have opinions throughout the community when doing this outreach, when doing the classes, those types of things. So, it just makes it a little bit easier to get that community
Right.
input, and I understand the vote portion that, in terms of 2 shutting down 1, but hopefully, we would like to think that with the amount of energy that they put into it, it'd be kind of like how we're trying to aim now, where it's like,
Right.
okay, we're not gonna try and gang up on people.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I understand your concerns, Andy, but I feel like this committee will dive into that and take into account public opinion, and people would have opportunity to provide input through that whole process. So just for cost reasons, I would say 3, and, the ability to get 3 people.
Yeah.
That actually participate. And if it's 5 people will be like, yeah, you can do it.
That's a
But if
big
it's 3,
commitment.
you're gonna have to kind of do
It is
more.
gonna be a big commitment, I mean, we
Yeah,
have
it's a
to,
2-year commission, right?
yeah,
So,
it is, definitely. Okay,
a couple of weekends and sessions.
so that's on for tonight.
I just emailed, Crystal.
Okay, and then,
Copied you guys.
Christy, do you wanna, introduce us tonight?
Sure.
Okay. I just, if the mayor isn't there tonight, I will have to run the meeting, so that's why I'm giving it to
Okay.
you guys. So, okay, short-term rental breakdown.
And can I just ask
Yeah,
a question
of
about
course.
that? We're gonna stick with the 25,000? Or
Well,
should I
Dave is gonna find out, and we'll bring it up tonight if we need to change it to the 2 mills. If we do 2 mills, it'll be, 22,000 would be, right around 22,000 would be our
Depending
budget.
on, because it's gonna hit the new
Right,
year, so whatever a mill's worth, but it'll be
right,
probably
okay.
23.
And, and just so you know, even if it did come out of the general fund, it can be split up into 2 years, 2 budget cycles.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand your concerns about our general fund, so I would absolutely would love to have it be over and above that, not out of the general fund, so. But if we do end up with 22,000 and we go over, then any overage would come out of the general fund, so.
And if we come under, it goes back into the general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do any more, on this.
Yes. Okay, so the short-term rental limit increase, Renee, do you wanna just, explain where we're at on, not the increase, but where we're at on the short-term rental limit?
Yeah, so we have, about 35 licenses available to, the homeowner type, short-term rentals.
Non-property manager.
Yep, non-property.
Non-licensed.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we have about 75 licenses available to the property manager type.
Okay. Now, has the Alpine, have any of those come online yet?
So, no, we only have about 10 of them, I think,
Okay.
are currently registered. His intent, which there's some variation in there, his intent is that all of them be short-term rentals. That's obviously not gonna be the case, but he wanted to make sure that he had 60 licenses available to him
Okay,
for his development.
okay.
What their plan is.
60 additional, or?
No,
No,
so
60
so
total.
50 more.
So it'd be 50 more than what, and so that would lower the property manager ones down to,
28.
Yep, yep, so there would just be about 25-ish available there. So, and prior to that ordinance being put into place, he did, have those licenses set aside for him with his intent, because he has all the addressing and stuff. He had them set aside, he spoke with Courtney and had those set aside for him, so that he could guarantee that he would.
oh, so is that included?
No,
In
so
what
that isn't the number but just those are earmarked for him.
So they would come out of the 70 that are available? I just wanna make sure, okay.
Yeah.
So he has 50, he has 10 already registered, and then he has 50 earmarked out of that
Yeah.
78.
Yeah, essentially.
So that means there's really only 28 left then for,
Property managers.
or is it first come, first served for property managers?
It
So
really
they
is.
actually have more,
Yeah,
If
so
the-
if he doesn't get it done, someone could come in and still get those.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
But-
wondering how that was gonna
Yeah,
work, I'm like,
so-
you can't really earmark these based off how
Yeah.
the ordinance was written,
So
so.
it just stated, some information about grandfathering people in. And so he had a list of addresses that he intends to build out and have licenses for. So that was provided to the city, and I would say that if he doesn't fulfill those licenses or build them out within the year, then
Yeah.
they're not earmarked for him.
because
Isn't
it,
the qualification is that they pay resort tax?
in that year,
Correct.
yeah. So it
And
has,
then you'd have to still get inspections done on the properties, and if they're not built, how are you getting an inspection?
Yeah, so if somebody applies for a license, that license is given to them with the intent that they complete those. And so if they're not completed, there's no time frame in that ordinance. It doesn't give a time frame for securing those license, or those inspections. So those are essentially given to them, and they can work through the process of inspections. And if they don't complete them by the next license year, then
they're,
They're out.
available again.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that a lot of the people that have purchased up there are not going to use them as vacation rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just that when he built it, he thought everybody was going to do it, because he's supplying an on-site property manager.
yeah.
So he wants to make sure that they have it available so he can sell it that way.
Yep.
But all 60 are not going to be vacation rentals.
Yeah, I mean, there's permanent residents up there, like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Sure, I would
second
say about
homes.
half of them,
Yeah.
About half.
half and
Okay.
half is kind of what we're seeing.
and then, we'll review the numbers, is it every June that they're reviewed? So,
Again, that was the other thing, is that we talked about reviewing those, the numbers, yes, I'll get that from the fire department and see where we sit
okay,
as far as residential, but reviewing the ordinance doesn't state anything.
no, I just meant the number that we have available.
Yeah, the number that we have available to us is reviewed, once per year, it says June, but when we can get those numbers from the fire department.
Right, and I don't really foresee much change because you got the numbers in December,
Correct.
and I doubt that, there's very many new
Yeah.
builds since December,
Right, right,
that are completed,
right.
where they're livable.
Yep.
But I guess there might be a few, but not a huge,
Yeah, like.
our building season is in the summertime, so.
Yep. So like.
So maybe it might be, I know we say June, but, maybe the city will have to start the process in June, but not actually come up with the final number until September,
Yeah.
when those numbers are known. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if we'd have to change the ordinance or not, but that's.
I thought the rule was that you had to use it within that year.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
use it by meaning, resort tax collection.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is if they're not billed, they're not used, so they're gonna lose their license. Correct.
Well, no, I'm talking about our base residential number
Oh, okay.
that we
That we don't
calculate.
know how many we have.
Yeah.
so
We
know
don't,
the
yeah,
percentage.
and it's not really gonna change since last December when we got that number,
Not
but
much.
I guess it'll catch up with itself, it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, and then it's based on a percentage, so if we have 5 more houses, maybe we have 1 more license available, you know what I
right,
mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
So-
yeah,
My intent behind bringing it up is to just stay ahead of it. It's such a new topic for us that, just knowing what is coming and, where we're at with those numbers is, in my opinion, important. We did tell people that, you know, once we approach those numbers, that the council or the short-term rental committee or whoever will see how those numbers are affecting, affecting anything.
right.
So housing, whatever those,
Well, and then, yeah, how many, when you brought everybody into compliance for the private people, how many new ones have you had, like true new
yeah.
private ones?
Yep, so we started out with about 112,
Uh-huh.
and we are at close to 200.
Right, and was that mainly from bringing them into compliance, though? The
No,
exi-
not necessarily.
Okay,
We definitely did catch a few through compliance for sure, but, a lot of that is people coming in and just starting that business new too.
okay,
I would have to go back and double check to see how many, I would have to research that number to see how many we caught through the software. It definitely was a big number, but it
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah, I remember
it
like
wasn't all of them.
25 or 30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about half of that number
okay.
is,
And I guess just for you to keep an eye on it, you know, how close they're getting to those private owners cap. And I know Dennison did say that, you know, we should be okay legally because there is an avenue for them to go get
Right.
licensed, get their property managed
Yeah.
license, and be
For
able to
sure.
get the license. But at the same time, you know, we kind of we don't necessarily want to impede people from their, I don't know, it's a discussion for council, I guess.
Right.
For either way.
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
yes, either way, but, just to stay on top of it. and-
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
make sure that we know what's coming down, because, you know, if we're growing 40 a year, chances are we're gonna hit that within the next year. And what happens if we hit that in the middle, after we do the June review of the numbers and, you know, 6 months down? the
Well,
road,
and
we
then
hit
that's
that?
when you say, I mean, you put them on a waiting list,
Mhm.
but, you know, maybe the city at that time redoes, you know, gets some information on the base one in the fall after maybe some of those bills have been done, and it might open up a couple more licenses too.
I mean, that's the whole point of doing a review. is
Yeah,
Yeah.
not to-
that's,
Not to panic, but just to like have information, do the research, and
Right.
then make a decision.
yeah,
So.
Right,
just
and,
But yeah,
the
it's
plan
nice to
of
know where we
what-
are.
right,
what triggers us to start that review
Right.
process? Like, are we waiting until we hit the numbers and start creating a waiting list? Are we going to, wait until we get close to that number? Because, I mean, it did take us a significant amount of time for the short-term rental committee to review that and get data. and
Yeah.
collect that data.
well,
What is,
we went with the 20% because it has been shown, data shows that, you know, a community can be very much so changed if it hits 23 to 25%, of vacation rentals, short-term rentals. So, you know, I don't think there'll be a lot of will from the public to increase that 20%. So I think, I'm hoping that some of our ones that are registered will fall off because they're not being used that way. Some of them have been converted to long-term rentals, and they just haven't come in and notified the city. And, you know, it may be like, if you're not getting resort tax from people, maybe, you know, the city can reach out and say, hey, are you using your license before we, you know, so if we end up with a waiting list,
Right.
type of situation. It just
Yeah.
may be the city has to be more proactive on some of that stuff.
And also enforcement, I
And,
think, too.
yeah.
So one concern that I would have, and other property managers, probably won't appreciate me for saying this, but when we remit our resort taxes, generally we don't do it for individual properties. We do it in one big lump sum for all of our properties. So if there's somebody, I could see that being a conflict where it's like, okay, I'm still remitting resort tax, but I've had one property sitting vacant for, you know, the full year. Or it's been a long-term rental for a full year. Or it hasn't been built yet, but this person is still remitting those taxes. So that might be something to consider is how we remit.
So property managers are the only people that,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying though, is that I would
But-
have no
But the software itself can tell
It
if a
can-
property has been rented,
It
right?
can tell if it's been blocked.
Oh,
It can't tell if it's been, it just shows
Oh.
either vacant or not vacant. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to throw in an owner's block and,
I gotcha.
I mean, it would show if it's listed though, so that could be a result there too.
so, yes, and, I mean, I've already talked to like AAA and let them know that that's a real possibility, like separating it out.
Yeah.
Like Evolve and, some of the, non-local considered property managers, who just actually collect and remit taxes for people.
Mhm.
Maya Aguara, I think, is another one. They separate, I have them separate
Okay.
everything out. Alpine Basin, they separate theirs out already.
Okay.
So it's really just the local.
It's me and Jen.
And
Heather, right.
Yeah,
Property
property
management.
they've done it that way for
Yep.
years with that.
How many property management companies, are you working with?
So, Seymour, Lodge Reservations, AAA, Jen, McPhail, Alpine Basin, I feel like I'm forgetting one in there.
And then
but
Evolve,
about
and
Yeah.
the other one, so.
Well,
I
and,
don't consider those property managers because they don't actually manage the property, they just collect the tax from
So they're
their
under the
immediate
individual?
Yeah.
Okay.
so,
Under 10.
we also need to, you know, if we are getting close to hitting the cap on the private one, it might be reaching out to somebody, because as Sandy had said, if someone has their broker's license, they're actually higher than a property manager.
Mhm.
So, you know, if there's I know there is a broker that owns a couple properties, vacation rentals here in town, that manages it himself, and if he's not listed, you know, under the property manager
Right.
section, he could be taking up. You know, so it just might be, I mean, I know it's our first year, but it might be just a little extra work on the city's part to make sure we have things categorized right,
We
too.
talked about having that perhaps on the application.
Yeah,
To ask whether they were a broker, you could actually put broker/manager.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the next thing is like redoing our business license application.
yes,
I've already started that process because I know that it needs to be done. And how that looks is probably just sitting down and getting some ideas like that together.
okay.
Because ours is a one-size-fits-all, one-page, not even, application, and it's not gathering the information that we need. More specifically, I have some resort tax stuff that needs to go to court, and the court is asking me for their EIN, or their social, or their date of birth, and I'm like, that's not information that we collect
Right.
from businesses. Is it something that we need to,
I think a tax ID number, definitely.
Yeah.
Most businesses will have a tax ID number, for sure.
Mhm.
So just those kind of things I think need to change. We've already kind of talked about like contractors, if we're requiring contractors to register, they provide us with their, certificates from the state to show that they're
An independent contractor,
independent contractor.
Uh-huh.
Food
licensed
vendors,
contractor,
yeah, food vendors, we require sanitation, an inspection from the from the sanitarian, to show that they're able to operate in the county.
Yeah, and they also have a state license as well. I mean, I even have that for my little
Yeah.
thing in there, so things like that
So,
should be really,
And realtors have them, property managers have them, so.
Yep, and that's the other thing, is the other piece is, we know who our property managers are, but we've never asked for that proof.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Because we've never asked for documentation to provide a business license. It's just something that needs to change if we're going to
Yeah.
have certain requirements, because then that weeds out those people that are like, here's my broker's license, I could be considered this category,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
have to worry about tracking them down
Okay.
and.
So, yeah, that will definitely, and then as far as business license goes, the liquor, we also need to change that, is that correct?
Yeah, so I don't fully understand it, I don't think a lot of the clerks fully understand it. So Senate Bill, 262 went through, and, I printed it, you guys could take a look. So it just says that any power to require additional licensing when the state is the original issuer of a license.
Right.
So essentially, we can't require a license that the state already requires.
Even though it's, because we're a registration.
So then our workaround,
Or
and I talked to
business
Denison about this, is that we call it a registration and not a license.
Right,
And
business
so
registration.
we think we could work around it. However, he's a little iffy on the liquor, beer, wine part of it.
Okay.
And then I don't know about the short-term rental marijuana side of things either. So,
I know other cities are saying business registration. Otherwise, we would not be able to charge anything for anybody.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
the ordinance says registration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
should
we've already, we're already set up for that.
Right.
And have that kind of under our belt. But, my understanding is that we still have to remove liquor, beer, wine.
Okay.
We can't separate it out within that resolution. We can't, yes, exactly. We can't essentially charge for the
You
registration.
can charge an amount for like a tavern or a restaurant, but you can't say, oh, you're serving liquor, so there you go.
So we can charge for the registration, the baseline registration, but adding on these.
Extra fees.
Yeah, beer, wine, liquor, which is how we currently do it.
Like a dispensary, all they do is dispense. Whereas, you know, we don't have like a restaurant where you can sit down and imbibe in marijuana in Montana, because it's against the law. So you just, register the dispensary versus, you know, you serving alcohol is different.
Yeah, so like, for
I
example,
get it.
like a cosmetologist, we can't require each cosmetologist to register, we have them register their salon.
Right.
Yeah.
And then-
Because they do pay for their different services with the state, whether they do nail, hair, you know, all of that
Yeah.
type of stuff.
Yeah, so that's kind of my understanding of it.
That makes sense.
There's some stuff on the listserv, and I just printed out that kind of email chain for us as well, so we can read it. There was a meeting with the league, or the league put on a meeting for the attorneys, and I don't know if Denison was able to make it, but I can't really track down where that went. So we can, because they said that they would have a more white paper plan put in place for us on how to proceed, and I don't know.
So do we have a separate category for the liquor store?
So we have, yes, for
Okay.
liquor.
Okay,
Because they sell liquor. So they get the base business plus the addition of liquor, sales of liquor.
can we do that though?
Not moving forward.
Yeah, so I mean, we would have to create a liquor, if we wanted to, a liquor,
Yeah, we'll have to go back and stratify.
Yes.
Because we try to simplify it.
Yep.
yeah,
And-
or do you just
We're
charge,
gonna have to consolidate
yeah,
those into different
Just-
category and non-state liquor.
right, so,
I don't know
okay.
how-
So, because you'll have your restaurant, and you'll have,
Services,
restaurant,
restaurants.
yeah,
Unfortunately, there's probably gonna be some restaurants that don't serve, that are gonna get grouped into that, and that's one of the things that we have to think about.
right, there's,
Is there a
There's not very
restaurant that
many.
doesn't serve liquor?
yeah,
Total
the Soda
Home.
Home,
Yeah.
Shack,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you know, just the little guys like that,
Yep.
so,
Coffee shops, that kind of stuff.
coffee shops, yeah.
So those are just some things to think about.
Or do we just, I mean, how much are we actually getting from the liquor? You know, do we just make it all restaurants kind of in between? Because the bars we had grouped as basically 'cause they all serve food.
Yes.
But maybe the Snow Crate, I don't know if they do.
They do kind of.
Kinda, do they? Okay.
Yeah, I think they make like frozen pizzas or something.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I've been there.
I know.
Tell you what, I haven't
Okay,
eaten frozen
so I
pizza from
guess,
there ever.
do you want us, well, I guess we'll, start working on this,
Yeah.
'cause we'll need it by June, May, we'll have to have it, ASAP, actually.
Yeah, because.
Any changes?
So this was in effect as of October of 2023.
Okay.
So that was already after our year, and we were able to finish that out,
Okay.
but it needs to be before we send out notices at the
Okay.
beginning of June.
So, okay, do you want to email us all of that information? And we will start, and we'll pull up our existing fee structure,
Yeah.
and, any changes you want to the application.
Okay.
And we will start, or if you just wanna make the changes and feel this is good, and we'll just review them, and, however you'd like to do that.
Yeah, I definitely think that we need to bring Dennison in.
Absolutely, yeah,
Kind of tell us what direction we need to go.
yeah,
and-
definitely.
And that will kind of.
I had a question. On the short-term rental software, it's $13,000 per year,
Right,
and I imagine the first year it more than paid for itself.
yeah, it paid for like 3 years.
And that's what I was wondering, is at what point would we feel comfortable dropping that software that?
Probably
They
never.
wanna pay for
I
itself,
know
like
that
everybody
there's
does.
been other cities that have thought about it, and it's just the amount of work it does for the city itself.
Yeah.
It more than pays for the manpower that we
That's
would
what I
have
would-
to institute.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah,
whether
it-
after the initial, is it still
Yeah,
paying for
well,
itself?
and don't you use it as a portal as well?
Mm-hmm. And that's where we do all of our
It has
registration.
more use.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just tracking it.
It's
Yeah.
basically like hiring a whole person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
13,000 is
Yeah.
pretty good.
Very underpaid is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does more than.
I don't know, mayors and councilmen are only 400 and 200 respectively.
That's true. We'll just put you on that, Dave, you get to do that. $400 a month, it's great.
Thanks for staying on top of all that.
Yeah. And our next meeting, we will, start reviewing all of that, so, send us over whatever you want, and, obviously,
Because I think it'll be good too, if we're gonna redo the resolution, we need to update our ordinance as well, because there's some gray areas in that
Okay.
that need to be, updated.
update
Do you
ordinance.
happen to know the
So
ordinance?
one of them in particular that I think probably applies to this is, property manager.
Yeah,
So Denison's opinion is that property managers are their own business, and then each one of their rentals needs to be registered. So the property manager licenses their business.
right,
But each property manager also pays a license to the state, so that's kind of one of those
Yeah.
things. But then you look at AAA, and they have multiple property managers under AAA rentals, do they still pay a registration?
not for each one, no, it's the business that pays the
The
registration.
business, yep.
Right,
It's
yeah.
just like a real estate office or that hair salon, same kind of.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
and
you
then
don't,
they pay
yeah,
licenses for each of their rentals.
right, and
So
honestly.
that's a gray area in there, we need to write that in there.
Right, and honestly, like, hair salon would be a great example. Those stylists that are in there are renting the space from the business, but they're working under the business license of the,
Yeah.
And
I
then
thought this
Chelsea-
was discussed, and it said that every single short-term rental needed its own.
it
Yeah,
does,
we
we're
do,
talking
yeah.
about their, like a real estate office, you're independent, you're self-employed.
Right,
You don't get a paycheck from,
but I
You're-
don't have to register with the city.
right,
because
that's
they're
what we're
under
saying.
the-
Yeah, 'cause
So-
you're working under their
We're talking
umbrella.
about different things.
Yeah, you're working under their umbrella.
So wouldn't that also apply for all the different properties managed underneath?
No,
Or no, because they don't have licenses, but we do get licenses through the state. So we get public accommodation licenses through the state for each one of those properties.
Yep.
Because they have to
Public
be
health
inspected and the whole bit.
Yeah.
right,
Yep.
but in the ordinance that was passed, it has a separate ordinance for short-term
Does
rentals.
it? Okay.
Yes, that
Can
says
you
they have
send
to
me
be
that?
independently registered with the
Oh,
city.
right, I'm not talking city, I was thinking state level, can I?
Oh,
Yeah, the
yeah.
262.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, it's like at the very end, I highlighted it. Oh, I did. Literally page.
Yeah.
But also in that ordinance to clarify, is it a short-term rental per property, which is how we've been doing it.
Right.
But it doesn't specifically outline that. I think that needs to be clarified.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you had a very unique one.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah, up on Lower Continental. where-
So, because the way it's done right now is by parcel.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you look at townhomes that are all in one parcel. So we have all of these properties that we manage 3 units in this one townhome development, and it's all one parcel, so do we need to actually get a license for each one of those? That's how we've done it.
Yeah, but then it's not necessarily owned by the same person.
But then we
One of
actually
them,
do have
but
one that's
that
owned by the
does.
same person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're like, do we need 2 licenses, or since he's one owner, like, and he owns on one parcel, does he need 2? Like, so, or can we get away with
Well,
one? Like, I just
okay.
wanted to,
So,
it gets real
like-
gray.
the, Kathleen, right over there.
Yeah.
There's 3 units in there. She lives in one. How, is one rented out long-term and one
Yeah.
short-term? So she
Yeah.
just has one license? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean,
But
I
if
haven't-
she were going to do all 3 units,
then it would be one license.
One license
parcel.
instead of-
But she owns the parcel.
right, she does, but this guy, if you own a duplex, it's the same.
Yeah, so we give her, I think we did one license for the one guy that
Yeah.
owns.
I still need that.
I think it would be based on if they have a separate address.
I agree.
So like,
So
if
it has
it's
a
like
unit
101 or 1105 Lower Continental, 1107 Lower Continental, they're individual units that could be sold individually.
Right.
Where that house over there is made up into 3 units, but you
It
would
cannot
never
be
just, it
separated
can't be
out.
separated.
Right.
I think that's
Which
the,
is totally, yes.
in my opinion, that would be the difference.
So if we were to do it, it'd be a tax ID, like, that would be the best way to do it, is that tax assessment code, like,
And like,
Yeah,
I said, this is
yeah.
just stuff that needs to be
Be cleaned
clarified.
up, yeah.
Right,
within
yeah.
that business registration
But
ordinance,
then
because-
you also have units, though, like, where they're timeshares
Mhm.
type
Yeah.
of thing,
But they
like,
only own it a portion of the time.
yeah, you only own it, yeah, and they have to be, like, Chateau and the
Chateau's a
Aspen
hotel.
Townhomes.
mhm.
They're all, to me, 'cause they're all one unit and their timeshares, they're different.
And then also.
I don't know.
They have somebody on staff 24/7, therefore they can be considered
Hotel.
owner occupied. So Chateau is different, 'cause,
It's a hotel.
It's
but
a,
they are individually
Yes,
owned.
they are individually
But
owned.
they have their own tax IDs.
yeah, they do.
So,
Each unit has
These
it.
are just things
And they
that
need to
come
be
up
individual.
that I think that need to be clarified. If we
Yeah.
put it in the ordinance, then it's clear to us what we should do moving forward.
Yeah, so
There's
it's
not
no
me
gray
trying
area.
to
Yeah.
ask, oh, I don't know, let's,
Yeah.
make a decision on it.
And how do those, does every unit then at the Chateau count towards our number?
That discussion said that they didn't. They were calling the Chateau a hotel. And
Yeah.
or motel, because of that, those numbers did not go in to short-term rentals.
Yes, they
Okay.
also don't have to have each one individually licensed either.
And they don't have to be individually.
Registered.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting confused with the
I know.
registration
Well,
and the
since you
license.
work in this every
Yeah.
day, I would love to
I
see
know.
what your recommendations are, like how you foresee this, because you're gonna be the one to have to interpret it all.
Yeah.
I would love to see what you recommend, and then
Okay.
have us review it.
Okay.
And maybe we can.
Yes, so we'll move this to next, meeting, and, 'cause I do wanna, the recycling budget and,
I will not be at the next meeting, just FYI.
oh, okay.
I'm gonna try and call in though.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, the recycling budget that Lonnie sent out, can you tell us what your concerns were on the budget versus, or
Well, I
how,
think
where we're at?
Part of that whole thing was just to review it, so.
Okay.
I mean, we're not getting anything in, as other than what, I mean, we are getting a trickle of stuff,
Okay.
for the recyclables, but I don't, that's up to you guys to look at it, because that was part of the deal, was.
Right, yeah, I
it needed
just,
to be reviewed, like I said, there's a,
I think I have it here, Jody and I both talked about it, 'cause I didn't see anything alarming, to me. I mean, it looks like you're pretty much on track based on
Yeah,
our
and that's
budget.
fine, but there's like another bill that's coming out tomorrow for $2,000.
Okay, and that's what we were, yeah, is there
Right.
some big bills coming that we don't know about? That's, I mean, that's not in it.
This is the first year that we've had to deal with all these bills.
Yeah.
At Center, so it's just more of a, put it on your radar.
Okay,
You need to look at
keep
the
track of
numbers,
it.
because if it's not gonna sustain itself, then you guys have to take a look.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Do you know, I just got an email from John Cordes,
Mhm.
he has a change of address, and I know, he was dealing with the person who's now gone. Who should he be connecting with? He's the one who takes the plastic up to Earth First.
Oh, us and Kyle,
Oh.
you can email me.
Email you? Okay, all right. I will just forward that email to you.
Okay, and,
And I'll get him in touch with Kyle.
And I'll update the spreadsheet. But Kyle's
Kyle's still here.
Sandy,
are the
yeah,
recycling?
yeah.
Oh, well, that's who we worked with, so,
He's still there.
okay, I'll copy Kyle.
Yeah, John.
Okay, I think he was just confused.
Question, what are all the contracts that we currently have through the recycling center? Like E-Waste, Republic,
Earth First.
Earth First?
Yeah,
Republic,
Earth First, BI,
so Republic does the glass. I can't remember the paper.
that I don't know, I don't think I've gotten, I have no idea. That's just it, I don't, until they start bills coming in.
So I thought that with paper and cardboard, we actually sometimes made money. Is that not true?
I don't know if we do, I don't know where they're.
So revenues we have, scrap metal, aluminum,
No?
cardboard,
Well, I
paper.
know we did like 10 years ago, maybe on cardboard.
Well, cardboard, I also heard that they were making money off of cardboard.
That's, yeah,
We have
that's.
$105 that we've received through,
Huh?
we have
$105
$105 that we received through January
Yeah.
for cardboard and
that was
paper. But that's,
for
it all fluctuates.
Cardboard?
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe that is cardboard.
January makes sense, Christmas. Everyone wants their Amazon boxes.
Yeah, I'm, not having seen those statements, it's hard to know.
So part of what we'll need to do, and maybe this is more of a Public Works Committee, is we do need to, really start compiling that data of what's been, the tonnage that's been recycled, how much it's costing us, how much we're actually, taking out of that landfill that we're paying Republic to haul away. I know those are questions people are gonna ask when it
Yep.
comes time to, review this in June. As far as fees go, I'm really hoping that we don't have to increase the $6 a month fee, because I don't know that there's a lot of appetite there from our public. So, and I know you guys are also working on grant opportunities and stuff like that too, looking into that with sustainability and public works, committee,
Just need a P&L.
yeah.
Well, we have a pretty good spreadsheet of where we're at halfway through.
Right.
I mean, to me, it looks, we had a budget of $108,000, we've spent 39 so far. We had a budget of 129 coming in, we've had 83 come in. So, I mean, things, to me, it looks good.
And the majority of that
Yeah.
is the
Yeah,
user fees.
the user fees,
Yeah.
yeah, and the $6.
I have a question for Lonnie.
Go ahead.
Is this set up in its own complete standalone fund so that we're sure it's not getting commingled and we're able to track?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
under the solid
it's
waste
making
fund.
money, no, it's not.
It's under the solid waste fund, under its own fund number, so all of the numbers that are,
Sub-fund.
yes, that is tied to recycling. So it's separate than anything else, it's not getting bundled into anything else.
So,
Okay,
But-
thank you.
yeah, but I do know, if there's a way that we could get, copies of what's been hauled off, if they're, saying what the tonnage is and things like
And I
that.
don't know if it says it on those invoices.
Really?
I just get the
There-
invoices, so,
And so it might be a conversation to have with Kyle
Yep.
and Ann, to gather that, you know, how do we know what the tonnage is of each,
Yeah, and how much
Thing
does
that's
that
being-
cost, like,
you know, of how many tons of cardboard are we hauling out of there? How many tons of glass? Because people are gonna wanna know that when we're asking them for that $6 fee. I mean, that's the kind of information, and it's also good information for grant opportunities
Yeah.
too.
absolutely.
I mean, to be able to show that, you know, we're saving this much from
And
going
it
into
was
the
part of the
landfill.
rationalization that we'll be able to use that to negotiate down our regular waste elimination fees.
Right, yes. Perfect, so, yeah, I guess if Public Works Committee would like to work on that, if you haven't already got it on your agenda, so.
On what, just getting the tonnage?
Yeah,
Okay.
of each item that's recycled, to make sure that that's being tracked somewhere, so that we can have that.
Current contract.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Yep,
current
that'd be
contract
great.
and expiration dates,
And that's all through that share file, that Google Drive that we got from, the last recycle. I
Yeah.
can look in there.
Yeah, if we could see those contracts, that'd be awesome, just kind of get an idea of, just better understanding and know where our footing is and know what we
Okay.
should be, what we should expect from them and make sure
Okay.
that they're also following through on their side.
Can I ask a question of you? What's your experience with recycling in your previous?
We did, in Choto, we started out with everything, I think we did plastic for a while, and then over the last 7 or 8 years, it got down to the point where we used to do cardboard,
Yeah,
and aluminum, and steel cans, and we had a big recycling bin for, if people had scrap metal.
Mhm.
And that's what it came down to, and probably the last 8 years, we didn't pay to have it hauled off, but we quit getting any money for it, except for the aluminum.
Mhm.
They would come pick up our steel and pick up our cardboard.
So that just came
But
out
that
of your
was
general fund, there was no, fee that you
We,
charged them?
we did our own garbage in Choto, so it just logistically came to a point where we would haul it to a roll-off site, and then the landfill would come pick it up. And the roll-off site was about 7 miles out of town, so we got to the point where we were having to make 2 runs out there with all the cardboard, so that's why we kept doing the cardboard.
Mhm.
It made our garbage routes cheap
Yeah.
to run. And,
Yeah.
and
So
it's- and
people
what-
had to just drive 7 miles out of town to dump their garbage?
No, we pick it up just like here, and we took it to the roll-off site and dumped the garbage. But pulling the cardboard out of the garbage and having a recycling center where they can bring it down, and we just ran it. We compacted it and then loaded it on trucks.
And was
But
that
that-
open all the time, or just certain hours?
No, it was self-service for the
Yeah.
most part. When the bale got full, they called my cell phone and I took care of it, and
So
then,
they would just shove it in the baler?
yep. People, we tied a rope on it so short people could pull the lid down. That was it.
And you got it inoperable, so nobody could get their hands in there?
And it-
yeah, like,
It was-
no dead bodies found.
It was often a mess, 'cause people show up, a lot of business owners, when it was late or no one was around, they'd just throw it all on the ground,
Yeah.
so. It was a headache, but again, it made our garbage routes
Yeah.
easier.
I mean, that's one option for us to look at, reducing, what we take. And take a look at the costs and,
I mean, for us, it came down, the only thing that made sense was cardboard, 'cause it took that bulk out of our
Yeah.
garbage routes.
well,
Right,
and you do actually get money for steel and for aluminum.
Yeah.
Well-
It doesn't even, for us, it really didn't pencil. I mean, for the headache and everything, we didn't get, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah,
I
for
think it
sure.
would be possible that, we would lose some of our outside of the city limit non-residents if we started. Yeah, possibly.
Yeah,
I'm just
That's a
thinking of
thought.
stuff like electronics, or, 'cause that used to be its own,
It
Yep.
did.
organization,
Yeah.
organization with its own funding, which we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Still,
And that's
but I would
what
bet
the
plastics are probably our most expensive one, but maybe not.
That's the bill that you guys got. info, it's the e-waste one for.
And we did electronics once a year, we had a cleanup. You can
Yeah.
bring them down, then we get rid of
We
them.
used to, and then it got pushed over into this.
And I think
where
that
they
would
can
be
take it anytime.
a fabulous idea. I just store all my tech stuff in one big box and take it to Goodwill. I mean, but,
Okay. All right, well,
Okay.
Public Works can.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look and see,
Okay,
as Mike says, what pencils and,
okay. Well, we're already over time. Our council rules and procedures, definitely, we will have this on our radar. I'll try to add it higher up on the agenda for next time. Just, it needs to happen.
yep,
Any changes
need
we're
to get
doing.
that done.
And, I do have a couple of resolutions that had passed that weren't necessarily in our current rules and procedures. One especially was, at our last January 24th, 2023, resolution number 3617, where we changed it to say a quorum of the council should consist of 4 council members physically present at a meeting of the council. The affirmative vote of 4 council members at a lawful meeting of the council shall be necessary to adopt any motion, resolution, or ordinance, or pass any measure unless a greater number is required by law. In the event a council member is absent, a majority of the members present may vote to postpone the hearing and or vote. So we did pass that January 24th of 2023, so we need to get that included in our current one.
Okay.
We do have the Word document of those, so we can start going in and changing these. The other one was resolution number 3525, and this was quite a few changes, and I honestly have not gotten a chance to go through, and it's from July of 2019. I haven't gotten a chance to go through and see if all of those changes were updated or not yet. I'm sorry, I apologize for that.
Some were and some weren't.
Somewhere and some weren't. So,
We
Those-
just need one current one.
Yeah.
yeah, and so we have a clean document to start working with for whatever changes we want to have. And I know we were talking about, we need to add our standing committees in there, who appoints, minutes are required, work sessions, timing, council business at the end of the meeting, and deadline to submit items for the packet and agenda, just make sure that's across the board the same, because I know it's different in a couple different places. And then any other changes that, council would like to make to those, so.
Just an add-on comment to that, who appoints the members to the standing committee will actually be an ordinance, because that's in municipal code.
Okay,
No objection at all to changing it, just realize that council rules and procedures do not override municipal code, so
Yeah.
you'll need to set the municipal, you can set municipal code so that it is set by council rules and procedures, or you could just change the municipal code to specify, but right now, is where it specifies mayor, and we talked about wanting to change that, but you can either be generic and fix it with rules on a year-by-year basis, or you can change it to, or you can change it to specify just council in the ordinance itself.
okay. Perfect, yeah, I think that's the main thing when we're doing this, is make sure we're not conflicting with anything else that might need to be changed if we so desire. So we don't have dueling rules and procedures with an ordinance or resolution, so. So we'll take that up at next meeting if that's okay with you guys, because it's 10:10.
Yep.
and do we have claims? Yeah,
Sure,
do you want me to introduce those tonight?
Yes, please.
Is it on the agenda, Steve? I didn't,
I don't believe it is.
Claims,
warrant table?
Oh, yeah.
warrants table, yeah,
It is, okay, thank you.
yes, please. Yes,
Have we adjourned officially?
Yes.
Okay, never mind.
no, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, with potential new council member,
Yeah.
is there gonna be the potential
Thanks,
for
Mike, for coming.
changing any of these committee appointments?
I had the same question.
I think that we talked about that, and
My
that we
phone
should
rings.
just talk about it after we get the new council member,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
we also know that he's very talented with numbers, and,
Yeah.
and if one of you wanted out, then we would all discuss that at that.
Right, that was
Yeah.
kind of my thought is, I know
Yeah,
that he had mentioned that he's, again, we all know he's good with numbers, and he also had mentioned that his weakest spot is probably land use.
Yeah.